Okay, so I want to talk a little bit more about U.S. markets. Bob Iaccino is the co-founder and chief strategist at Path Trading Partners. Bob joins us live now. So Bob, guys, let's pull up what the Dow is doing on the screen. Let's pull up what the markets are doing, because I was actually curious. We're up about 100 points, and I was curious, what was it? I mean, I thought that maybe the markets here in the U.S. were taking their cue from Shanghai Composite. I wasn't sure. I was sort of grappling my mind to figure out what was it. Is there one thing that is actually making the market sort of go higher today? What are your thoughts?
Well, good morning, Zain. No, there isn't one thing, and you actually worded it perfectly prior to your last guest, where you said the market's really up, and there's no one thing. I mean, I'm repeating you. Okay. I'm repeating you. I'm not repeating myself. I'm repeating you. But
wait, so you're
essentially what you look at.
Great.
I'm learning from you. Here's the funny thing, is that when you look at a market like this, when there's no real headline news, that tells you that the headline news was weighing on the market, not propping it up. The underlying fundamentals and momentum is still trying to go higher. But we had news like trade tariffs. We had Jamie Dimon talk about 5%. 10-year notes. We had all kinds of headlines that were weighing on the market, including oil prices, which are up a little bit. And those are not necessarily in the headlines today. And the underlying momentum of the market is coming over and taking over. You've got discounted stocks that people have been waiting to buy, stocks like AEL, stocks like Coca-Cola, stocks like National Oil Well Varco, which jumped last week. These are stocks that people have been waiting to buy. They've been undervalued on EPS basis, forward EPS basis, and there's been headlines preventing this kind of thing from happening. When you've got a quiet day like this, it shows you the underlying momentum.
Interesting. So how closely are you watching oil prices right now, especially, you know, as we point towards these more oil sanctions sort of going into effect? How closely are you watching oil prices, which no doubt will be influenced by oil supply?
Well, it's an interesting thing when you're talking to the public about oil, because I trade actual oil futures when I'm looking at oil. But most people want to know where they can get exposure elsewhere. I trade them right behind me. But having said that, you look at some of the underperformers, the big oil have underperformed substantially. At this particular stage in the earnings season, you've got 81% of the companies reporting, 80% of beat on EPS, 74% on revenue, and the largest surprise in terms of blended earnings growth rate, we've got 20.4% in the overall market. In the energy sector, we've got 123.7% blended earnings growth rate at this point, and big oil is underperforming. So I'm watching oil very closely, because I want to figure out when to buy these big oil stocks if you can't actually trade the oil behind me, I'm saying, because there's a point in time where that's going to be an obvious play. It might not be today. Valero's the one I'm looking at, but it might not be today.
So just overall, just in terms of the broader themes, if we just look at sort of the past month or so, you know, we have been watching,
sure,
aside from earnings, we've been watching, you know, the threat of a trade war between the U.S. and China very, very closely. Obviously, on Friday, the Chinese then came back and threatened the U.S. with more sort of tit-for-tat trade war talks. You know, if you go ahead and slap X amount of tariffs on us, we'll do the same to you, or we'll do a slightly lower amount to you. I'm just curious, has the market sort of just taken that in? Has that already been priced in? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's what it is. If I have any more interviews today, I'm going to quote Zain from CNN and say that essentially the Shanghai was up.
You do that, my friend.
Right? Shanghai Composite was up. I'm going to. Shanghai Composite was up, crude oil's up, and copper is up. Those are the three things that play off of negative China news. There's no negative China news, so what you're saying is exactly correct. It's priced in. So minus any other headlines, we get slight rallies in all three of those. Essentially, the market's telling you that we're okay with the trade war as it is right now. We'd like it to go away, but it's not going to bother us right now. That's essentially what's happening. And again, those three things, crude oil, copper, and the Shanghai Composite, we have to play off of those when there's no other headlines.
Yeah, so can you send me the tape of when you say Zain said, so I can really feel good about myself?
It's on the way.
Bob Iaccino, thank you so much. Appreciate it.